Hey gang, Jim Spellos here. Welcome to 2020, the year we all got serious about our digital security and privacy. Well, maybe not. Anyway, have a special video. Typically these just go out to my Patreon subscribers, but this is part of a series on what I call the anatomy of your anonymity, and try to say that 5 times fast. And what we're going to talk about today is a concept and a topic that most people aren't aware of, called browser fingerprints. Now, when I talk to people about any sort of being secure online, they might mention things like deleting their cookies, or maybe if they're really aware, doing a incognito browsing in one of the browsers. Yet the reality is the tracking has gotten so good these days that even that stuff really doesn't make much of a difference. Now, the digital fingerprint, your browser fingerprint, is so accurate. There's a stat here I want to show you. Actually, before we even do that, just understand how marketers are using browser fingerprint technology. If you do any sort of a Google, you're going to find articles out there understanding how pertinent it is to understand how well your fingerprint, as it were, online can be recognized even though you're doing a lot of hiding. We're going to show how that happens in a second. But if we're really looking at the information that's out there, I got a stat that's here. I'm just going to bring this up on the screen only because I think it's really important to see this. And it's from the Mozilla site, which does a great job. And I'll read it, but it's up there anyway. It says, your digital fingerprint is persistently accurate, and with the recent developments in cross-browser fingerprinting, this technique is capable of successfully identifying users 99% of the time. That means with all the defenses that you have, you're still out there. And clearly the stuff that happens in the retargeting of ads is part of what's being used here. That means if all the privacy stuff that you're doing, the tracker still can get you. Now, browser fingerprinting actually has a good side. And the good side is it's oftentimes used for anti-theft. It's for credit card theft information. But let me explain what's happening out there and how it works, and then give you a couple of ideas of what you can do. And hopefully you'll just become a little more aware of your options out there. Now, we're going to go to a couple of sites that are right here. And the first one I'm going to go to has the name of Fnatic. And it's part of the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Does great jobs with privacy and security. And it asks the question, is your browser safe against tracking? Now, right now, I'm using the Chrome browser right here. And I did put that, I clicked on the button that said, check my browser. And what it's saying, is your browser blocking tracking ads? Yep. Are they blocking invisible trackers? Yep. Does it stop trackers whitelisted? Yep. But does it unblock third parties that promise to honor do not track? No. I could probably adjust that in Chrome. And most importantly, at the bottom, does your browser protect from fingerprinting? And it says that my browser has a unique fingerprint. Now, studies show 1 in 250,000 browsers will share the same fingerprint. That's not a lot. So the fact that this is unique. Now, how is it unique? Well, what I can do here, I'm going to go to another page because there's 2 tools. One is called Fnatic, one is called RU Unique. It's actually MI Unique. And they're going to start showing what it says. So in Windows, about 56% of the people use Windows, 38% of the people using Chrome, only less than 0.5% or nearly 0.5% using a particular version of Chrome, 2/3 in English. If you were to start to scroll down the screen like I am, you can see all this information that's out there. What does it mean? It means that you're unique, which is a good thing, right? But in digital fingerprinting or browser fingerprinting, it means that your presence can be tracked wherever you go. And not only can it be tracked when you're on a particular browser on your laptop computer at work, but that carries over. That carries over to mobile devices and your phone and all the different sites that are out there. It's really incredibly simple. Now, I'm going to move over to another browser. I'm going to talk about this a little later, but this is the Tor browser. It's called the Onion Router. It really is a browser a lot of people want to stay away from because the connotations of the Tor browser is that it allows people to go to the dark web, which is true. But it's also one of the most protective browsers out there to prevent you from being followed. So we ran the same test on Fnatic. And you're going to notice that at the very bottom it says, does your browser protect from fingerprinting? That your browser This particular access point here has a non-unique fingerprint. That means it's really difficult for people to track where I'm going using a browser like this. Really, really interesting that this stuff is happening all the time and that we are just not even aware how we're being tracked. Now, again, I said there's a good side to this. There really is, because a lot of the anti-theft stuff, the credit card stuff, is using the same type of browser fingerprinting to catch the bad guys. So it's really a up in the air conversation here. So what are the big players talking about here? And before we even go there, cool site for you to look at, browserleaks.com, will really show you about fingerprinting and some of the stuff and give you some explanations of what they're looking at. The bottom line here is we'll talk about these as we get toward the end in a minute or so. But what are the big players doing, the big browsers? Well, last summer, Google talked about proposing new privacy and anti-fingerprinting controls. Really hasn't gone into effect. But again, the idea of preventing these trackers, the data brokers who have your information and sell it so that people can find and deliver that perfect ad to you. You know, the fact of the matter is that there's a benefit to that, because what do I want in terms of ads? Something pertinent to me or not? But anyway, with Google, they're saying, okay, we're going to talk about fighting it. And I'm sure part of this stemmed from the GDPR in the past year or so. Firefox has gone a little bit deeper here. And in fact, this week, their latest browser, I believe it was version 72, one of the things they had is a much more extensive browser fingerprinting control to prevent organizations from being able to access and follow you across the web. Pretty cool. So let's do this. Let's go over a couple of things you can do. And in a way, you're going to look at this, you're going to go, that's kind of disappointing, but we want to do as much as we can to keep ourselves secure. In fact, really, when we think about this, my concern isn't as much your privacy, because as I've said before in all my sessions that I talk about, you've kind of given it up already, but I'm really concerned about your security. And I want to make sure that you don't have that damaging situation happen to you. But how to protect yourself from this browser fingerprinting? Well, one approach is using a browser such as Tor or other ones that are really good in terms of defenses. The problem is that it does go into the dark web, and in fact, you'll probably look pretty creepy by using it. It's also much slower because it keeps rerouting the traffic, so it's not going to get a direct information, and we're so impatient these days. We don't like that stuff. But Tor browser, clearly from the Fnatic tool that we just saw, gives a much more safe approach for digital fingerprinting, or I should say browser fingerprinting. Now, you could disable Flash from your browser, but really, who uses it anymore? It's a kind of an old school approach, but you can disable JavaScript. Yet the problem is with that is it'll disable almost every website you go to, so that's not going to be so good of a solution. Going to privacy mode, maybe somewhat, kind of, not really. You know, privacy mode, the incognito, I think it's great. You know, it's not going to leave a fingerprint on your computer, but it doesn't really affect these browser fingerprints that we're talking about. What about plugins? And some do help, and let's just quickly move over here. Take a look at 3. I don't use any of these, although I have from time to time. The AdBlock Plus, that's such a tough conversation, because if you talk to any marketing or any folks who are looking at, you know, selling their product, you know, they want their ads to be out there, and clearly the ads and the revenue that's being generated is driving the web as we have it. So it's a slippery slope argument. Some people are really focused on blocking all ads. One of the better extensions out there. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, who developed Panopticlick, also has Privacy Badger, which will automatically block the invisible trackers that are out there. I've used it before. It works sometimes. It didn't work for a while, but it gets great reviews from people. And then you can go, and this is getting really deep into it in terms of Firefox, into a no script site, and it'll explain to you that in Firefox you can turn off all the JavaScripts. Now, I know you don't know programming necessarily, but anything that really is interactive, going back to the server, whether it's a question, whether it's interactivity, JavaScript's running it. So most websites really have that. JavaScript can also carry a lot of tracking capabilities. Won't get into those details, but what's really important right now is that if you want to manage and manipulate JavaScripts only on the sites that you feel you're secure with, you do have tools to be able to do that. So privacy, not really. Plugins, some do help. Lastly, other tools, and we're going to talk about those at a different point as we discuss your privacy, your security more and more. So that's what you can do. You do have some benefits. This whole conversation, though, is about awareness. It's awareness that we're being tracked, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. And I don't want to go in over the deep end either way, but I want us to be aware because we want to take control of our privacy and our security online. More videos will follow on this. There's a couple on the Patreon site, which is where all of these are going to go. I already have one on password managers. I also have some cool Excel webinars and all that stuff. So join and get that information. I will be going to the Site Global Conference. We're going to talk about some of this later this month. So if you're going to be in Vancouver, definitely will see you there. Otherwise, just be aware you're being tracked, and it might be okay, it might not, but I want you to be in control. I want you to be in control of your privacy and your security. That's all for now. See you next time. Ciao.